this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back for another session of 101.5, Scrapbooking 101.5. And today we are talking about journaling. So there is a lot to journaling, and it's kind of, it's a topic that a lot of people don't really enjoy talking about or even thinking about when it comes to scrapbooking. For various reasons. So I'm going to highly reference a short video that I saw a couple years ago that was put together by another Creative Memories advisor. Her name was Alicia O'Brien, and yeah, I got that right. Sorry, Alicia. Alicia O'Brien, and she did a fantastic video for a private virtual event that I was a part of that was all about journaling and the whys and the wherefores. And so I just wanted to kind of review that with you today and share some of her thoughts and ideas and some of my thoughts and ideas. And if you have thoughts and ideas, I would love it if you would share that in a comment and let us know your suggestions or questions or comments, in support or against anything that we are suggesting. So I have some visuals I'm going to share with you, and some examples of things that I've done that are good or bad, and yeah, let's get to it and check out my workspace, and we'll review that real quick. All right, so I know we've already mentioned that journaling is kind of a dreaded topic, and certainly not most of our favorite thing for various reasons. Many of us say, I hate my handwriting, I don't know what to say, nobody cares anyway, I'm just repeating myself, or there's a lot of it does take a lot of time to do adequate journaling and to put the details down. Or some people also mention that it never quite looks as good as they want it to look. And I understand. I do. It is kind of frustrating for me, though, because handwriting is important. And I know that I know that it's important to you. If you are taking the time to record your memories, it's going to be an important thing for you. Your words matter, and you scrapbook your photos so that you can record a history of the things that you've enjoyed, or your family, the stuff that mattered to you. So you need to record the why. And you can easily go on Pinterest and learn how, or practice how to write if you want to improve your handwriting. So I encourage you to look into doing that, because that is very helpful. A couple things to remember, okay? If you hate your handwriting, just remember, you're not writing the Declaration of Independence. Your handwriting doesn't have to be super fancy, like the writing in the Magna Carta or any of the official documents of our country, or anything even remotely close to that. You don't even have to use your own handwriting if you don't want to. You may, but you may not realize how much your handwriting means to someone else. Let me just share with you a couple of things before we talk about the elements that I have out here on my desktop. So a few years ago, I did some what I call heritage albums for my parents, using a bunch of photographs that we found in an old scrapbook that my grandmother had kept. Can you see this? How she wrote directly on the photos? So this was the style, and take a look at the year, 1913. These photos have been around the block and then some. And yet her writing is still there, which is a testament to whatever ink she used. And I don't know what it was exactly, but now these photos, in case anyone out there is having a conniption right about now, these are in here in this album using corners, so I can lift these out if needed. But these have the documentation right on the front of them. I really didn't have to add any journaling or do anything special for them because Grandma had already done it. However, these photos had writing on the back of them. So I went ahead and filled in the information below them. And we also had a letter, kind of a history that my grandma had written. And so I typed that up in a font that was easy to read and broke it down according to the photos that I had, so that I could include her words, not her handwriting, but her words, through a Microsoft Word program. And so that is also a great way to journal. Let me flip through here. Sorry if I've taken the page protectors off most of the pages that have glare, but this one's going to be a little bit harder. So can you see the document here on the right, or on the left, sorry? This is the handwritten notes of my great-grandmother. That's her handwriting, using a pencil, mind you, on a piece of paper that probably would fall apart if it was left out to the elements. And this is a typed copy of the final version of that poem that was actually published in a book for their area. This is her. She was so beautiful. So I love the fact that I have her handwriting, but I also have her words that are much easier to read over here because the pencil is fading, sadly. I also have these notes, which I think are fantastic. These are letters that my grandmother sent to my grandfather when he was in the service. And when he had been in the service, when he got out of the service, he went to California to kind of establish their life, and before my grandmother and my dad came out to meet him out in California. So these are letters that were written to my grandfather from my grandma. So that's super, super neat to have the handwriting of these special people, special family members. And they're protected inside this book for forever, right? So let me show you a couple of other things. So this is another heritage album for the other side of my family. These are my mom's parents. And I just wanted to show you, this was a trip they took to Hawaii. They sent back a bunch of postcards, and my mom kept them. And so that's also very cool. It's got their handwriting. It details their trip and mentions different things they were enjoying doing. And just really, really special, really good information. This is a letter from my great-grandmother to my mom. This is my great-grandmother, how I remember her when I knew her. This is what she looked like. And this is a letter that she wrote my mom the year after I was born. So, and this is her in her 90s. She was such a sweet, sweet, sweet lady. I love that that's her handwriting and I can read her words. But this, again, this is typed and just signed at the bottom. This is a typed letter from a good close friend of my mom's. He actually, I think, was a second cousin or something. And he sent my mom many, many things. But he took the time. I was just a child. 1980, well, not a total child. I was 19. So, you know. Anyway, he sent me this beautiful letter and my sister and I, and then he sent us a bunch of photographs, and he sent a typed explanation about all of the different pictures, all of these pictures that he sent, and they were photos of our grandmother, my mom's mother, who passed away before I was born and long before my sister came along. So really special to have those and hear his stories about her in his own words. Let's see, and let me check my notes and see where I'm at. Okay, so different ways you can journal. You can use Creative Memories pens, which are my favorite things to use to journal. We have several different kinds of pens. We have dual tip pens, which have a journal tip on one end and a fat tip on the other, so you can make titles or do different decorations with the larger tip if you want to, or you can use a micro tip pen, which is even smaller than the journal and the journal tip pen end of the dual tip, if that makes sense. So these don't come in all different colors, but they do come in several colors, so more than enough to get you to journal how you want to journal. We also have what we call dot tip pens, and these are for use with multimedia as well, but they are archival ink, and you can use these to journal. On one end there's a journal tip, and on the other end there is kind of a squishy, juicy tip that you can use to make dots and other use them in other multimedia type of ideas for your pages. You might have these older CM pens that were the chisel tip and the fine tip pens, and if those still work for you, because many people report that their pens still work, fantastic. These are wonderful pens. If they still work for you, great. I don't have as much of a selection of them anymore as I used to, because I've used them up and had to throw them out. If you're not going to use a CM pen, Pigma Micron makes a great archival quality, archival ink pen, and you can get them in different size thicknesses. This one's a 0.5 tip, which is fairly small, but you can get them even smaller, or you can get them just a little larger, or you can get them in a brush tip, or this is kind of more of a fat marker tip. This one is a brush tip. So lots of different options there if you are into mixed media art. This is a photo labeling pencil. You can write on the back of your photos with this. This is not something you would want to journal with. Okay, so please don't use this to journal, but if you need to label a photo so that you remember what it is, or when it is, or that kind of thing, this you can use all day long on the back of your photo without damaging it. But you just don't want to journal with this because it will fade over time, whereas the Creative Memories pens are guaranteed not to bleed, and they are fade resistant over time. So those are the ones that you want to go with for that. You can use, if you have a Cricut, you can cut a title or journaling bullet points using your Cricut or your Silhouette, or even Cuttlebug, I think, makes some alphabets that you can use to go ahead and do bullet points and things like that. So if you don't like your handwriting, there's plenty of other options. So what do you do if you don't know what to write? You can act like you're a journalist and just jot down bullet points of who, what, when, where, and why for an event. You can act like you're a poet and write down different phrases or fragments. I was going to show you just this page real quick from our Disney album, because over here it just says 2 dads plus 5 daughters plus spinning teacups equals fun, fun, fun. And that's all I wrote for journaling on this page, because we all know what the teacup experience is like at Disneyland, right? So I don't really need to write a lot. That explains it all right there. You've got, let's see, you can act like you're a storyteller. Anything that you're going to sit down with your album and open your album and then say to the person next to you who's looking at your album with you, that is the information that ought to be written down on your page. Somewhere, somehow, whether it's just in short little bullet points or in full paragraphs, is up to you. But you can act like you're speaking to a family member or your progeny, your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild. What would you want them to remember or know about these photos? That's the important thing that you need to write down. It's also important to remember that we should be scrapbooking not just all the fun things that we experience, but sometimes the hard things that we experience too. And I know that that's unsettling for many people, and certainly you don't want to dwell on experiences that are really emotionally rocking in your world. But when there is a birth in the family, when there is a death in the family, when there are heartbreaks, miscarriages, you quit a job, you got hired for a job, you moved, you did a major home improvement, there's lots of different things that we need to be documenting in our albums and journaling about. And they're not always the easy things. I thought I would just share this very quickly with you. These are a couple of pages we did for my father-in-law's funeral. And you can see this picture on top. These are all of his grandchildren that were at the funeral. There actually, I think, were a couple more that came into the world after this group, but for the most part, that's everybody. And he definitely left a legacy, and so it's important to document that. These kids need to know all about their grandpa. They need to remember and know the details of his life and what an honorable man he was. So that stuff is important and really worth taking the time to do in your albums. This was a restoration project, essentially. The house we owned in North Carolina, we ended up ripping out the original kitchen that was still there from 1966. And my husband, who, as I think I've mentioned before, he's a general contractor now that he's out of the military, retired from the military. But while he was still active duty, we tore out my kitchen all the way down to the plywood. He put in a custom tile floor. We did custom cabinets. I got a brand new refrigerator, the biggest one we could find. One of those cool French door ones with the freezer on the bottom. Really, really fun project that, as you can see, the whole family was involved with. Haley was only 4 then, and she helped, and the kids were all about helping with stuff for the floor. So, and painting and you name it, we had lots of help. That's the kind of fun stuff to put in your journaling and help them remember as they look at these photos. So, what's the best journaling tip you know? Pretend someone is looking at your photos and what's something you're going to tell them about the photos. That's what you should write down. Make a journal box. You can make a journal box of what things cost when you're on vacation, or even not when you're on vacation, but maybe you're preparing for a big party. Make a journal box of all the things that you bought for the party and how much they cost. You'll be surprised how interesting that is. Years down the road, you look back and go, oh my gosh, a 2-liter bottle of soda only cost me that, and now it's way more usually. That's kind of the way it goes. Write down quotes, funny things family members say, so stuff that you really laughed about, and or dreams that they had, or things that just made a huge impression that will bring those memories back for those who were there to experience it. I hope these tips have been helpful. What are your tips? Will you share them with us? Make a comment. Let me know what you think. And I hope this has been helpful for those of you who are learning about these things for the first time. If you have any questions, be sure to make a comment. I try to be really good about answering. I hope this has been helpful again. And until next time, when we have our next Scrapbooking 101.5, I hope you have many more creative moments. And I look forward to seeing you. Take care.